Habs prospect Filip Eriksson is doing stuff that none of us thought was even possible. The 6th-round draft pick is now on point production levels most comparable to Nicklas Backstrom, Daniel Sedin, and Auston Matthews. We got to dive into this phenomenon that is Filip Eriksson. Plus, another Habs prospect, Yevgeni Volokhin, is drawing even comparisons to Andrei Vasilevsky's stats in Russia. There's a lot of awesome stuff to talk about with these Habs prospects, so stick around for this episode of Habs Digest. Jesse, the first thing, though, I wanted to talk about is something Kent Hughes said about Coach Martin St. Louis. Now, he said this a couple days ago in his trade deadline press conference, and it kind of flew under the radar a little bit. Haven't seen a whole lot of people talking about it, but he really shed some light on the future of Martin St. Louis and where the organization sees him, and it comes down to a simple quote as stated by Anthony Martineau. On est très heureux du travail de Martin St. Louis. On va s'arranger pour qu'il reste avec nous. Basically, they're happy with his work, and they're going to arrange and do what they can so that he stays with the team. There's no surprise there, Jesse. Martin St. Louis is getting respect from not only players, but staffs all around the NHL. He is creating an incredible culture and an environment that is rich in player development. I think it makes a lot of sense to finally hear Kent Hughes say this.
Absolutely. It gives a lot of clarity on the future, which you have to feel like they're good buddies and everything else like that. But just Kent saying, hey, I want to be here for the long haul. I want to be here when we're competing. And I want my buddy, Martin St. Louis, to be here as well, right? To be honest, I think a lot of the success of Suzuki, of Slav, of Cole really kind of completing his game all around is really thanks to Martin St. Louis. And as we know, it's Martin St. Louis who said specifically that he's the one that really deals with Slav. It's not the assistant coaches or anything. He really took him under his wing. So a lot of the success that we're seeing from Slav is directly attributable to Martin St. Louis, right? So definitely makes sense why we want to keep him around and also to be here for the winning times as well.
For sure, and a lot of these young guys who are coming up now through the Habs system, I know it's not just Marty. I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the development staff that Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton have invested in recent years. And you look at guys who came up and maybe, oh, will they be that good? Well, look at Arber, Xhekaj, an undrafted guy who has absolutely thrived at the NHL level. Jordan Harris has taken that step, and there's a couple guys who maybe haven't. Someone like a Justin Barron who still has potential. For every one of them, you got a guy like Alex Newhook who is really starting to come into his own as of late. Kirby Dach, since he got to Montreal, has been the best version of himself in his career. And like you said, Slav, and I'm sure there'll be countless others. So it's just awesome to see what Martin has done with this team. And hey, can't wait for the hopefully long-term future with Marty at the helm. But it's time to transition into some Habs prospect stuff. Speaking of the young guys, we got some guys that are not currently in the organization, but we want to talk about them. The first one being Adam Engstrom. Now, Adam Engstrom, first of all, shout out to Marc Dumont for his article today talking about some Habs prospects. And we're going to go through a few of them today, but we're going to elaborate on a couple that he spoke about. But the first one is Engstrom. There's still some games left to play in the SHL, and Rogel will face Modo in their last regular season game on March 12th, 2 days after the day we're uploading this video. Then they'll go to the playoffs, where there'll be an 8th final series, see if they qualify. But they basically say that even though Laval could stand to use some reinforcements and Engstrom would help the lineup, we have to acknowledge that he's playing important minutes in a very strong league that is the SHL over in Sweden, and there's very little downside to him gaining some more professional experience, especially playoff experience. And I completely agree, Jesse. Adam Engstrom, while this season maybe didn't live up to the hype that we were almost left with after his amazing end or second half to the season last year, he has still been a very solid offensive player, a very solid defensive player at the same time in his moments. And I think this guy is maybe one of the most slept on Habs prospects that can really make an impact in not only the AHL, but potentially the NHL within the next year or two.
Yeah, Josh, this is one of the guys I'm looking forward to see the most at training camp next year for the Montreal Canadiens, probably signing his ELC then. You have to feel like his style of playing, being so mobile, skating so well, having those offensive capabilities. Obviously, the skating goes well just being a modern NHLer, but specifically the offensive part of his game goes so well with the Montreal Canadiens that really they've been able to capitalize. One of the biggest, brightest spots on this team is how the D's been able to contribute, how they're encouraged from Martin St. Louis to jump in the play, right? And you have to feel like Adam Engstrom is going to be a player that thrives under Martin St. Louis system, and also smart enough, as we were talking about the show, to also kind of be able to back check when he makes a mistake, right? Mm-hmm. And have that responsibility. So it's really that perfect world. I really think that not only is he developing so well, but then we're able to really draft guys that just so happen to really fit our system so well. So that's why I'm really looking forward to seeing him.
we're drafting a lot of mature players, the guys that are making impacts in leagues, which is kind of not unheard of, but not common for their age. Whether it's Konyushkov, like we talked about, who's the captain of his torpedo team and one of the team's higher point producers, even though he's a defenseman, or Adam Engstrom, who's playing important minutes in an SHL playoff run. There's a lot of great stuff coming from some Habs prospects. So yeah, like you said, he is one of the most exciting ones. But hey, we got some more. Maybe some guys that that we might not see for a little while, but I wanted to talk about them. And they're honestly kind of shockingly good for how little we hear about him. And the first one I wanted to mention is Yevgeni Volokhin. And we've talked a bit about him before. We did a video, I believe, a month or two ago on Yevgeni Volokhin and Bogdan Konyushkov in that same video, some Habs Russian prospects. But let's just take a look at his production recently. Just take a look at this. Now, the MHL, if you're not familiar, is basically the junior league of the KHL. So it's still a junior league, and this is his age 19 season. He put up a .938 save percentage with a 1.57 GAA, going 22-4-4 with 5 shutouts, and his only playoff game, he got a .957 save percentage. So let me just show you another little stat sheet here. And as you can see, this player here, in their age 19 season, that was 2012-13 was this player's age 19 season, they put up a .930 save percentage with a 1.93 GAA, and their playoffs were actually a little bit worse than Volokhin in the MHL. Now, they did play a great 8 games in the KHL that same season for sure, but Volokhin has better numbers than that player. Well, this player that's on the screen right now, that's Andrei Vasilevsky. So just wanted to point that out, that Yevgeni Volokhin, despite not playing yet in the KHL, will hopefully see that next season, but his underlying numbers, Jesse, up to this point are borderline just phenomenal.
And he's paying his dues. He's going through the leagues just as, Vasilevsky has done before him, What's so amazing to see, .938 save percentage this year. But the thing about Volokhin is that it's not just a one-off this year. He's been a star at every level that he's played at, just ridiculous, well above 900, just every single league, right? This guy is just an absolute phenom. I believe, along with him and Engstrom, there's one of the biggest sleepers, and probably another guy we're going to get to soon. I'm glad we're giving a love to a couple of the guys you don't hear as much. Now that their seasons are kind of winding down, we can kind of have a better evaluation of their season as a whole. This is absolutely amazing. We got Jacob Fowler as a prospect. We know Jakub Dovec still has a lot of promise. And now adding to that Volokhin, obviously a couple others in the mix. I think really that emphasis of Kent Hughes of really going for a couple goalies that we're going to really get a diamond with one of those, I think you don't really have to look too much farther than Volokhin right here.
I know, and again, I'm hesitant to make a call before he even plays a KHL game because, again, that's really the pro league. Junior league is junior league. You see a lot of guys play well in junior and then flare out once they get to a higher one. But all the signs point to him being good. So while I'm not ready to say he's a bona fide star yet or anything like that, really cool to see. Another goalie prospect, I saw someone comment this on last video. Shout out to you. You know who you are. You commented this. Actually, I think there might have been multiple of you talking about Quentin Miller, who had a great second half of the year with Rimouski after he got traded from the Quebec Remparts. A lot of great goalie prospects in the Habs system. Great stuff to look out for. But the guy that I wanted to talk about most, Jesse, is Filip Eriksson. Now, Filip Eriksson, he did not have a great start to the year in the SHL. 29 games and only 6 assists, but you gotta remember, this dude played 2 games in the SHL in his age 18 season. He played 29 games in the SHL in his age 19 season. But since he was loaned down to Hockey Allsvenskan, the league just below the SHL, the second best league in all of Sweden, 24 points in 21 games, which is absolutely phenomenal because Hockey Allsvenskan, well, it's not some easy league, Jesse. But what this means is, well, if you guys are familiar with PNHLE, it's a stat developed by, I believe it's Hockey Rank Kings, and they basically take your point production in certain leagues and apply a multiplier to predict what that point production is equal to in the NHL. Well, in a recent post on Reddit by Rob Myatt, user Rob Myatt on the Reddit, they were using the app for Hockey Rankings, which is a great app on Apple. It's only on Apple if you have an iPhone. Go check it out. Which now projects Filip Eriksson to have above second line potential, and his similarity scores for PNHLE, so in their age 19 season, all 3 of these guys played over in Europe, some in the SHL, of course, Sedin and Backstrom, Matthews in Switzerland. His similarity score is 95 for each of those 3 guys, Nicholas Backstrom, Daniel Sedin, Austin Matthews, indicating that his point production relative to his league for guys that played in Europe is very similar to those guys. Now, I'm not ready to say he's going to be a star or anything like that, but what I am willing to say is that this guy who was a 6th round draft pick has production that's on the level of even above many guys who went in the 1st round in many years before and after him. It's absolutely incredible to see.
Yeah, after a slow start, he really got on a tear, 24 points in 21 games. And again, it's, for this young centerman, it's, having that great hockey IQ, even though he's not as highly as touted as, Joshua Weir,
Mhm.
obviously, and Nick Suzuki, right? We've seen, these types of players that really are able to really think the game through. That just translates so well to making the jump. The way that the game is so quick, obviously, when you're having a high hockey IQ, what it first and foremost allows you to do is to be able to make decisions quickly with the puck. And, speed is the name of the game in today's NHL, right? So you have to feel like it'll be interesting to see what he can do maybe at the SHL level. We're definitely going to be keeping an eye on that and just kind of tracking that. But I mean, with just so many of these prospects we've had, right? It's just, that sometimes we're going to have these guys kind of coming out of the blue. For sure, some of the front runners kind of trail back, right? But that's kind of this long race with the prospects, right? And really that we just cast such a long net. It's just amazing to see that we're having some guys that's coming out of the woodwork right now, just really surprising us.
For sure. And the thing with Filip Eriksson too, Jesse, and we've heard this before from a lot of Habs prospects, from Caufield to Hudson to, well, many others. When he was drafted, his scouting report kind of said, well, his physical attributes are going to be the one thing he needs to work on the most. But that's common for a lot of Habs draft picks, except for maybe Slafkovsky and Reinbacher, who they drafted not specifically for, but in large part due to their physical attributes. But this dude's a hockey player. And that's what Martin St. Louis loves, right? He is a hockey player. He makes the right decisions. He has that good scoring potential. And I think one more year in the SHL could do him well. We've kind of talked a bit about this before, but just before the end the video, like, it really feels like the Habs organization is going all in on mentality as well as skill. And those physical attributes, like we've said, they're becoming not as necessary as maybe they were 10, 15, 20 years ago in the NHL. So I feel like a guy like this could be a very underrated fit.
It's so true. And looking for another example of that at the goaltending position of Jacob Fowler,
Yeah.
a little bit smaller, but because he got that mentality, because you're a gamer, because he thinks the game well, he has that right competitive spirit for it, right? That's the type of guys that they want. They want really, guys that really care. And I think that's the big thing about Montreal this year is maybe they don't have all the talent, but the will and the determination's been there all the time, right? So I think that that's really a great point, Josh.
Yeah, it's really cool to see these Habs prospects thriving in other leagues. And again, most of these guys are not going to hit. A lot of these guys are never going to play for the Habs or even in the AHL. But what we love to do is shed some light, give them some love, right? You never know which ones will come out of the woodworks, which one of the highly touted ones are going to fall off. So it's great to just take a look at all these guys. And what do you guys think? I mean, these are some pretty impressive numbers, right? Leave your thoughts down below on Eriksson, Volokhin, Engstrom, anyone you want to talk about in the Habs prospect system. We'd love to hear from you. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Help us hit 12,000. We'd really appreciate it. I'm Josh Goss, for my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.